welcome to In the Node. My name is Jesse. I'm a sales executive here at Nagios.
I'm Laura. I'm a software developer.
And I'm Emmett. I'm also a software developer.
Wonderful. Today we'll be talking about agriculture and how it could be utilized with Nagios software. So there's a lot of different ways we could go into this, but before we dive into what you can do with it, let's talk a little bit about our background in any sort of agriculture industries.
Currently live on my family's horse farm, and we do some equine reproduction, so dealing with mares and foals and that type of thing.
I was just raised on my parents' hobby farm out in Wisconsin, so mostly just horses there as well.
Okay. Any other animals?
Just horses for
Just
now.
horses?
We used to have more, but right now it's just horses.
Perfect. And they still have horses?
Yes, we just got 2 more actually. So
How many does it make?
They're up to 7 now. My mother keeps talking about like dialing it down, but then it just doesn't happen. And so,
yeah, that definitely happens with some farmers. They just go bigger and bigger and bigger, and yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My experience is pretty far back. I grew up in a dairy farm in Wisconsin in the 1980s and 90s. And things have definitely changed radically as far as technology in the agriculture industry. So, I mean, there's robots, there's sensors, there's a lot of GPS technology that's available now. So it would definitely help us learn a little bit if you could tell us what technology is currently used and how they utilize that.
My first thought is always just maintaining the barn itself, like making sure. The big thing that we always had to worry about was in the winter, the water freezing over. You got to make sure it's heated so they can have water to drink. That's pretty important. And that heater gives out, horses don't have any water. They get ornery. They get angry. So something like that, or making sure the temperature in the barn is at a comfortable level. So like you put, this would be like in both the water and in the barn itself, temperature sensors that you can then monitor, send out alerts with XI. If something goes awry.
Yeah, we've got one heated barn, and so it's got a bathroom and running water, so we have to keep it above freezing all year long. Probably not so much with heat. We've got fans and things, although it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to check for higher temperatures too, in case some fan went out or something like that. Last winter we had one of our automatic waters. The concrete pad that it was sitting on tilted, and the wind came in from the northwest and froze the pipe underneath. Mm-hmm. And that would have been nice to know.
Yeah.
Maybe before it was a total disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely good to know about freezing pipes before they burst.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Or even the power for the heater too, to make sure that they're still running. And
So in regards to feeding the horses, do they buy all of the feed for the horses, or do they do any of the crops like on the land? Do they raise any crops to feed them?
My parents, they would just do hay is the thing. And so that there's some nuances there with the growing of the hay is the easy part. It's just grass. You just let it grow. But then when it comes to harvesting, you have to be very particular with your timing. And so because it's very important that once it's been cut, you've got about a 4-day window in which it can dry without any rain. Because horses can be pretty picky about their hay. It can be they have particular tastes, and so you want good hay. At least our horses. I don't know about yours, but
it depends. But yeah, they tend to. They don't, and you don't want to feed them moldy hay because it gives them health problems. So, so that's important. You also don't want to make sure that your hay isn't too wet when you stack it, because it can burn down your barn.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants that. Yeah, I remember even back in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty elementary. You just go out to the field after the hay was cut, and you'd have moisture sensor that you basically stick in just like a temperature probe, essentially, to get the reading of the moisture content, because you obviously don't want things to mold on you, and it's a very small window, as you mentioned, with the 4 days.
Yeah.
Always hoping it's not going to rain, wondering if you're going to have to rake the hay and bring the moisture content down a little bit. But yeah, I would imagine now, just with my research, now there's a lot of different sensors out there. big companies, at least in the farming world, like John Deere, Case IH, they all have APIs out there, whether it's for the equipment, not surprisingly, some of them have subscription services that you can use to help grow your crops. So that way you can have constant readings of the moisture, learning the nutrient content on it. So that way it's just a lot more streamlined than the farming of the old days. But that's just one of the things that I found in the research of farming in today's world versus 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
What kind of
different?
What does the API give you? What kind of
data?
So
John Deere in particular, they have everything from the equipment for the farmers that can be monitored all the way down to the dealers that are selling that equipment. They have different APIs that read out from stock, what's available. Just going in, one of like a John Deere combine, those things are like, last I checked, at least $250,000.
Yeah.
And each one of those heads that you put on the front are like $60,000. And the technology that's inside it, using GPS, you can basically get a graph of your field, and you're 2 to 4 seconds behind real time of seeing where you are in that field to graph out, where you've planted the crops or harvesting those crops. So it's all done via GPS inside the, why am I forgetting that? Yeah. Inside, it's going to be able to tell you the moisture content of the corn or the soybeans, whatever's being harvested. Everything from fuel levels, like old tractors, you just kind of had to look down, and now, everything from fuel levels to how full your hopper is. That was the word I was trying to remember, hopper. So how full the hopper is, the moisture content within each load that you're taking it in. Then beyond that, after you offload and then put it in storage bins, you dry it out to a certain level as well. There's sensors in there. And all these sensors, I would imagine, as long as there's a way to programmatically have it communicate or send that information out, it would be possible to graph that and put things in using Nagios XI to see that information. You could probably graph out, the moisture content using a multi-stack graph.
Yeah.
But those are just, the sensors are kind of like the high level thing. But looking in at some of these different manufacturers, technology is very, very important, and the efficiency. It's not the small dairy farms of the old days. It's kind of by the big Land O'Lakes and the big corporate companies that come in and make these big farms. They're all about efficiency, and they put a lot more money into it to make sure they can get the most out of the least amount of time and effort. And that's where the technology seems to come in a lot of parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are just so labor intensive. If you're relying on someone other than yourself to check for things, sometimes that can be an issue too. So if you have a kind of a remote way of doing that to double check that, yes, the water tanks are full. Yes, the automatic waters have water flow. They're not frozen. Some of them have these big balls that'll seal them up to help keep it warmer or cooler. And so one of the things that we'll do is go around the fence and look to see if you can see the balls, so you know if there's water in there.
Yeah.
But a sensor,
Yeah, exactly.
a lot less labor intensive. And
it definitely would be, especially if it's a big farm and you have a lot of different tanks to check.
yeah.
But temperature sensors, I could imagine, could be utilized in many different, from, just corn, the temperature sensors, robotics. My cousin Dan and his wife Sarah have a really nice farm. They're actually the third generation owners on it. So it started with my grandpa and came down to my uncle, and then Dan took it over. But after Dan took it over, they really brought in the new generation. It's all robots that milk the cows. Wow. They have sensors that can tell how much they ate, when they ate, when they last milked, because they're just trained to basically go into the stall that has a robot that milks them. And when I was growing up, it was a very manual process.
Yeah.
You had to individually go and milk each cow. And now they know when they eat, and that is all monitored. And inside their, I guess, milk house, or it basically looks like a command center. It's all monitors and computers, screens with graphs and different metrics on it. So, I mean, but that's millions of dollars. So obviously when you have that sort of a technology, there are monitoring solutions out there. Nagios could certainly be a part of that. But yeah, just between all the robots, I mean, besides monitoring the cows and what they're producing as far as milk, how much they're eating, when the last time is that they milked, you'd obviously want to monitor those robots as well, because if anything goes down on that, then, you know, maybe they can't eat, or you don't know, you know, any of the statistics, which data is so important. And especially in the farming industry, just knowing what you have and how you can improve it with hopefully less effort. So,
and all of that technology just gets me thinking that I'm sure there's a lot of underlying infrastructure there as well, with just like more traditional like IT networking, switches, routers, and all that would need to be monitored as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. You're right. Absolutely. There's a ton of stuff that could just be monitored on a new age dairy farm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and we have video cameras for when the mares are foaling.
Oh, that's
so we don't have to be down there.
Yeah.
And mares can be a little bit of a pain because some of them, if they know somebody's around, they will wait. And we've had many times where somebody will be down there watching. They'll leave, and then maybe I would come down a few minutes later, and there's a foal. You know, we got to get make sure the cameras are working before the foaling season, and there'll be at least one of them that's down, or one piece of equipment that's not working. Our farm is kind of on a 3-step hill, and the residential area is in the southeast corner, and the barns are down on the lower level with other buildings in between. So we had to put up special networking equipment to be able to, so we could view the cameras from
Wow, that sounds quite advanced.
houses.
Is it all wireless or is it wired?
Yeah, it's wireless.
Okay.
Yeah. We looked at wired, but then you always had problems with wires breaking, or
Yeah, like a mouse gets it or something.
Yeah, you
somebody
never
cutting
know.
it with a piece of equipment, or and it was a long way, so
Yeah,
it just made sense to go wireless once that was available.
that sounds pretty advanced and a very good idea.
Yeah. I might need to call my parents after this.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues within the agriculture. You know, you mentioning cameras reminds me of a prospect I was just speaking with that's out on the East Coast, and it's a entity in a state that has legal cannabis. And so they're using Nagios to monitor like 150 cameras in this cannabis warehouse, because they need to know if a camera goes down. So then they monitor the cameras. Do you monitor the cameras on your farm?
Not yet.
You'd probably get that free 7 node. But you could probably also get a special deal, I would guess, working here. Maybe they'd put you the free 50 node. Yeah, just keep thinking about all the different things that could be monitored between the sensors, the robots, GPS, you got cameras. I mean, where else even go? I see you've got a little bit of notes here. Is there any other things that maybe I haven't talked about or thought about?
Well, with horses, they tend to be hard on fences. And so then you put up a hot wire. Well, if you don't keep track of whether the wire is hot all the way around, before you know it, part of it will be knocked down, or part of the fence will be getting messed up or something like that. So that would be another thing that would be good to monitor, just preventative.
Yeah, so basically you just monitor the box that sends out the electric current throughout, probably, or
Yeah. Get a sensor that can read the voltage, or I'm not sure if it's voltage or amperage, and they'll short out sometimes.
Yeah, that seems a lot more sophisticated than the way we used to do it, which is just grabbing onto it, and then if you had like a city folk that was around and didn't know, you'd grab their hand and then they would go through and then they'd get the shock. But, you know, that's the old school way.
Yeah, we got tired of it getting knocked down, and so I think it's a 50-mile fencer we have right now in one place, and nobody wants to touch that one.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll make the
They'll
hair.
knock you right out.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a good time at all.
Yeah.
We've got a pony that's very tolerant towards it,
yeah.
so he always gets out. We've had problems with that, of course, like making sure everything's hot. I was thinking maybe like a RFID chip a tag on the horse. So like if it wanders off too far from the barn, you can get notified that something's up. The pony got out again.
Yeah.
Are all the gates closed?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
One other element we haven't really talked much about is the weather. That affects most all areas of farming, whether especially outdoor, but indoor as well. In the 80s and 90s growing up, that was always one of the biggest stress factors for my folks was, is it a good time to plant? Is it going to rain? Is it going to wash things out? After you have the hay cut, is it going to rain? As you mentioned earlier, that 4 days, a lot can happen in 4 days, and it could potentially ruin thousands of dollars of crops. So one of the big areas is the weather technology and the advancements. Instead of just going by the local weather at the 5 o'clock news on what the weather is going to be the next day, there's a lot more sophisticated radars. You can kind of tell what's coming on the immediate horizon, which is definitely going to be beneficial for farmers in knowing what's coming up. So with all the sophisticated technology that they have available, I'm just trying to think of ways that you could utilize some of that weather and incorporate that into Nagios XI where that would be beneficial.
Well, I know some people have looked at setting up alerts for weather events and things like that.
One of the things that I was thinking about is just if you took like local samples, like of wind speed at like, because I know wind can be a big problem for like corn. Like if it gets too, I don't know what you would do about that in the short term, but like long term, wind breaks and the like, plant some trees and some hedges to protect your corn. But yeah, that's more long-term planning. That wouldn't be like an immediate alert that you would want to like go, I need to go act.
It would be good historical data though.
Yeah.
Go back and compare what your fields are doing and
also like alongside that, you could like measure rainfall. Like if we're talking historical data, you could set up sensors around your farm and just get that data to look back upon and see like what the trends are, like if you need to adjust in any way.
Yeah, I could see where that would be really helpful if you can look back on months or years previous just to have an idea of what the stats were. Maybe even if you had like a greenhouse, for example, you might want to see different humidity levels. That might be another thing that would be important, I would assume. I don't have a lot of greenhouse experience, but I would assume there's a lot of things that could be measured in there. Temperature, obviously. Moisture content is a huge thing within the greenhouses.
And I know with greenhouses specifically, there are a lot of ways to automatically adjust humidity. But if those were to fail and the humidity gets outside of desired ranges, then it would be really important to get an alert on that promptly.
And there's some things that are used for herbicides, pesticides like that are light sensitive too. So if something like that was to be applied and the lights were to be turned on at the wrong time, that would be something that would be good to know.
And I guess the other thing is a lot of those greenhouses and other farms, the automations that are in that, you don't have to manually go around like probably in the 80s and 90s, you would have to spray all of the plants. Now there's automation and irrigation systems for indoor, outdoor growing. You probably want to monitor those irrigation systems. If they're automated, sometimes things break as well. So that could be another thing that could potentially be monitored using Nagios XI.
And get into like hydroponics, like I'm sure that gets really complicated too. And because that like it's a much more controlled environment, so there's more things that you have to control, and like the nutrient levels in the water and the like. I think that could be really important.
Yeah, I would guess there are sensors that could tell the nutrient level within the water, right?
Yeah, or like the pH or stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's all stuff you'd want to graph and just keep making your future crops better and better just by taking that data and all the nutrients and temperatures and figure out what's going to make the best crop for you. That's what it's all about, is efficiency and just getting the highest yield out of that stuff.
Absolutely.
But even things like if you've got refrigeration or freezers in your buildings and making sure that they're actually working. We just had a freezer go out and lost the whole freezer full of food. But in farming situations, more like your veterinary supplies and things like that need to be refrigerated.
Yeah, absolutely. That medicine goes bad if it hits a certain temperature. Monitoring a refrigerator and freezers is definitely possible. I think before you two started working here, somebody had left the refrigerator door open and all the food inside went bad. And then this is before we had the remodel. We only had one fridge, but somebody did set up a sensor in it. So once it hit 60, it threw off an alert. So that way nobody's leftovers were bad after that. So monitoring a refrigerator and freezers are definitely possible because we did that here in our very own office.
Nice.
But leftovers probably aren't quite as important or as expensive as medicine for your livestock.
Yeah.
We've talked about how to collect all this data. You can graph all of the data and see your pH levels, the nutrients. But beyond that, if you have a large-scale farm with multiple fields, that's something you may want to visualize. And you can do mapping within Nagios XI, specifically using NagViz. So I'm thinking what you might be able to do is, since you can literally put any picture you want in it, you could just get an overhead view of an aerial view of your farm and put that in for some sort of a use case.
Yeah, you could put the icons exactly where they actually are in real life, and it would just be like you can draw connections between things. So like if the connection between the switches are down or what have you, like you can see that exactly, you can pinpoint exactly physically on the farm where something has gone wrong. And I think that could be very powerful.
Yeah, especially if you have a large farm, you know right where to go. That would be a total game changer to have that in there. Your entire farm, the aerial view of your farm, you could have a specific building with just the horses, or maybe you got your refrigerators over here and mark that. So, you could really get granular on, maybe just like a specific pen or building or, really far out. You could do so many different things with that.
And what's great about NagViz and XI specifically is that it's you can link maps really easily. And so like if you're looking at like an overhead view of your farm and you see like something's wrong in the barn, you can drill in really easily, and then like that pulls up a map of said barn and you can see specifically what is, in this hypothetical situation, what's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that could be very powerful.
Yeah, that'd be like those old CSI shows.
Yeah,
like
enhance.
Enhance.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, that would definitely be a cool use case. I'm trying to think which other features are in XI. So obviously the sensors can be monitored, switches, routers, network gear that is almost certainly needed in a lot of these cases, especially if you have IP cameras out or different cameras to monitor.
Mm-hmm.
It can be particularly important because it's a relatively hostile environment compared to like an office building.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of best case scenario. It's air conditioned, like there's no severe weather, and so being able to monitor the underlying infrastructure when the stakes are kind of stacked against it to a certain extent, I think you could leverage that significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because networking equipment or really any electronic equipment can work in 110 degree heat with a lot of humidity,
doesn't mean it
probably
likes
not the best.
to.
May not work tomorrow,
Yeah, exactly. Or like we talked about at the beginning, if it's cold enough that pipes are freezing and bursting, I can't imagine that is great for, any sort of electronic equipment. So anything could go down in those extreme highs and lows.
Yep.
And like the distances involved too, like they're kind of being put to the test.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing breaks, who knows what goes on down the line, and that's where it's good to kind of know all the different relationships and how they coordinate with each other. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, I think pretty much covered growing crops, watching livestock, monitoring your buildings, monitoring your acreage, the prices. What else is there? I think we basically monitored everything there is in the agriculture industry. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for watching, and happy monitoring.